Hi, boys and girls. I'm glad to be with you again, but Pastor Jim will agree with me. It's hard to teach or preach to a camera. I'd much rather have you here in person so we could work together, but this will have to do for now. Just like we always do, we're going to start with our memory verse. 1 Peter 3:18, Christ died for sins once for all to bring you to God. Our story today, actually our story on Sunday, we talked about Jesus being arrested by the soldiers and he was put on trial. Do you remember what they said Jesus did wrong? He said he was the Son of God. So the story today is called The Sun Stops Shining, and it tells us what happened next. If you want to read this in your own Bible, the crucifixion story is found in Matthew 27, Mark 15, Luke 23, and John 19. "So you're a king, are you?" the Roman soldiers jeered. "Then you'll need a crown and a robe." They gave Jesus a crown made out of thorns and put a purple robe on him and pretended to bow down to him. "Your Majesty," they said. Then they whipped him and they spit on him. They didn't understand that this was the Prince of Life, the King of heaven and earth, who had come to rescue them. The soldiers made him a sign, "Our King," and nailed it to a wooden cross. They walked up a hill outside the city, and Jesus carried the cross on his back. Jesus had never done anything wrong, but they were going to kill him the way criminals were killed. They nailed Jesus to a cross. "Father, forgive them," Jesus gasped. "They don't understand what they are doing." "You say you've come to rescue us," the people shouted, "but you can't even rescue yourself." But they were wrong. Jesus could have rescued himself. A legion of angels would have flown to his side if he had called. "If you're really the Son of God, you could just climb down off that cross," they said. And of course, they were right. Jesus could have just climbed down. Actually, he could have just said a word and made it all stop. Like when he healed that little girl and he stilled the storm and fed 5,000 people. But Jesus stayed on the cross. You see, they didn't understand. It wasn't the nails that kept Jesus there. It was his love. "Papa," Jesus cried, frantically searching the sky. "Papa, where are you? Don't leave me." And for the first time and the last, when he spoke, nothing happened. Just a horrible, endless silence. God didn't answer. He had turned away from his boy. Tears rolled down Jesus' face, the face of the one who would wipe away every tear from every eye. Even though it was the middle of the day, a dreadful darkness covered the face of the earth. The sun could not shine. The earth trembled and quaked. The great mountains shook, rocks split in two, until it seemed that the whole world would break apart, that creation itself would tear apart. The full force of the storm of God's fierce anger at sin was coming down on his own Son instead of his people. It was the only way God could destroy sin and not destroy his children whose hearts were filled with sin. Then Jesus shouted out in a loud voice, "It is finished." And it was. He had done it. Jesus had rescued the whole world. "Father," Jesus cried, "I give you my life." And with a great sigh, he let himself die. Strange clouds and shadows filled the sky, purple, orange, and black, like a bruise. Jesus' friends gently carried his body. They laid him in a new tomb carved out of a rock. How could Jesus die? What had gone wrong? What did it mean? They didn't know anything anymore, except they did know their hearts were breaking. "That's the end of Jesus," the leaders said. But just to be sure, they sent strong soldiers to guard the tomb. They hauled a huge stone in front of the door to the tomb so that no one could get in or out. So here are some things I'd like you to think about. Had Jesus done anything wrong? No. Did Jesus have the power to come down off the cross? Yes. So why didn't he come down? He stayed there because he loves us, and he knew this was the only way to save us for eternity. What happened to the earth while Jesus was on the cross? Remember, it said the sky got dark, there was an earthquake, mountains shook, rocks split open, and the sky got dark. The sun was not shining. Jesus' friends took his body to a tomb. Do you know what a tomb is? It's a grave that's carved in a rock. And this tomb was large enough to stand inside and had a huge stone rolled over the opening where it was sealed. When you hear this story about Jesus, how does it make you feel? Most of us feel sad that he had to suffer like this. The story of Jesus dying on the cross is called the crucifixion, and we call this day Good Friday. Even many adults wonder, why is it called Good Friday when it was such a sad day? But it was good for us because Jesus showed how much he loves us and he was willing to die to save us. And I'll let you in on a secret. On Sunday, we'll see that God can change sadness into joy. But even as Jesus was hanging on the cross, he gave us an example of how to live and how to love others, even those that hurt us or tell lies about us. He said, "Father, forgive them. They don't know what they are doing." So we learn from him to forgive others. Let's say a prayer together. Bow your head and close your eyes. Jesus, thank you for loving us enough to be crucified and die for us. Sometimes we find it hard to forgive someone when they have hurt us, but we will try to follow your example and love those who don't like us. We love you for what you did for us. Amen. Bye.